Back to walking now. Bush. Walking bush under the bush. Aduh. It's a highly protected environment. We're walking. Lucky it's not slippery.
So, you know, in winter, there's water all above us. Not all above us, I'm making it up now, you know. I mean, under the boardwalk everywhere. Can you see these bright reddy orange feeder roots?
Yeah.
That's what the little burrowing ones clean up, and any little gnats and stuff on there.
Okay.
The birds singing.
Now we're about to walk through a grove of huon pines. See if you can count how many there are. And it is a trick question. Yep,
Look at
we're
the
walking through a whole
trees.
grove of huon pines now. Look at all these here, all above
This
it.
is
See what the really
pines.
fine. I'm just looking for a bit of huon pine with the pine cones on it so I can show you. Sometimes the tree gives you good bits, other times it gives you nothing. Someone correctly.
What's this? Ah, that's the seeds.
No, this is a pine cone.
Is it?
Yep.
I thought it's just seeds.
I'll show you the seeds in a moment. See if we can wiggle a few out. So each of these pine cones has about a dozen seeds. There's one. That's a huon pine seed. Right there.
Wow.
No wonder they're there.
It's too small.
And they're the little pine cones. I know. So my friends, there we go. I'll just pass this around. I've got 3 huon pine cones in my hand, and then I've given it a wiggle to actually release the seeds. So you can see how tiny they are. So it's not like a big radiata pine or a Douglas fir or anything like that. These are quite tiny. When they're dry, they're just like little tiny bits of paper. They can take up to 3 years to germinate. And they need to be grown in what we call a bog method, which means the soil has to stay moist at all times for 3 years.
3 years to German.
Now our snakes aren't out today, I haven't heard anyone squealing yet. And I'll just put these pine cones and seeds up there, so if anyone would like a closer look, I'll get a photograph. I still feel like I've got to wait for people because it's such a small group today. I'll just pop these up there. Oops, minus one. Now, welcome everyone. My name's Katrina. Thank you for stopping here with me. This is a great place. Just to quickly let you know why this area was so highly protected and why so many people were willing to fight for it. There's a few other things going on here besides the Huon pine, although rightly it is a star of the show. But what you're actually standing in is the largest remnant area of cool temperate rainforest left on the planet. Now, once you think of the opposite side of the scale, with tropical rainforest, the Amazon is the lungs of the earth in a tropical sense. Well, it was 2 years ago, I don't know about now with all the logging and burning. But we are in the largest intact area of cool temperate rainforest. So did any of you know that at all? No? Not only that, the western side of Tasmania was the very last to break away from Antarctica. So what you're also standing in a broad sense, is Antarctic vegetation.
Oh.
Now you might be wondering, well, how on earth does she know that? Let me reassure you, I'm married, so I think I know everything. Let's just leave it at that. Otherwise you don't know what I'm going to put under that gravy at night. No, one of my favourite authors, you can actually check up on what I'm saying. One of my favourite authors, Mary White, she actually had the privilege of studying the fossils that Mawson brought back on his 1912 expedition to Antarctica. And it was while she was studying these fossils that she just kept scratching her head thinking, what is going on? So she started to compare these fossils to the western side of Tasmania, the eastern side of Tasmania, which is totally different, our North Isle of Australia, New Zealand, South America, and a few other places. And all of her research brought her right back here to this tiny little island of Tasmania, the western side. And so she got onto some, some colleagues of hers who study ice cores, and asked them, without letting them know much information, what they have found in their ice cores that might relate, and to do with pollen, seeds, insects, and their research actually brought them back to the western side of Tasmania as well. So we are in a very, very special place worldwide. But the Huon pine, star of the show. Now, within this area as well, we have a lot of what we call endemic species, which are plants, animals, insects, birds. We're only going to have a chat about the plants today, which are endemic to this area. Now, because this area was so isolated, and it dates right back to the split of Gondwana, a lot of these plants rely on one little insect to actually pollinate these plants. And I'll show you a couple in a moment. Now, why I say that is because if we lose the insect, we lose the plant, unless there's some kind of mutation. So we end up with a double extinction. So I hope I'm giving you a little bit of insight on why this is World Heritage, why it's got so many nominations. And it's at this time I would like to acknowledge the Mimigan people of the Palawa Nation of Tasmania. You see, they were smart. They weren't silly enough to live in here. But I can reassure you that everything in here can either be used for medicinal, craft, or food. It's just a matter of knowledge. Now, they used to live on the coastlines and inland, but they did used to venture into these areas on a seasonal basis to see what was ripe, what they needed in their medical kit, and also what tools they need to rehash. So that's good to know. So I'll go through a couple of the plants, then we'll go to the star of the show, and there'll be a question there. If you don't get 10 out of 10, you've got to do dishes. That's all right, there are no dishes. So the plants I'm going to have a quick chat about are all at eye height. So hopefully you'll be able to turn around and see for yourself what I'm talking about if you'd like to have another look. And of course, I'm not going to be offended. If you're not really into botany, I'm only going to skim over the top. I'm not going to get too scientific. But also, you know, if you think plants, I don't mind if you continue with the walk, or if you stay here out of curiosity, that's okay. So the first plant I would like to have a chat about is this one here. This one's not in flower. This one's a little bit slower, but they were in flower at the boat. Now this one is whitewood. Whitewood. And this is a very significant plant because it's one of those ones that has one little insect to pollinate it. If it goes, we lose both. Not only that, this little whitewood, endemic to this area, only grows on the Gordon, the Franklin, the King and the Queen River, nowhere else. So this is one of those little ones that if the dam had have gone in, This one either would have been drowned in one area or starved of water the other one. So this one we could have easily lost just because of ecological disruption.
Wow.
Now with the whitey wood, I do like to mention this one because it's one of the very first relationships with the citrus. Very, very close to it. Now with the leaves, it looks like there's 6 leaves on there, but the leaves are just 2 leaves shaped like that and then stuck together. If you turn the leaf over, now I don't mind you touching the plant. How else are you going to learn? Please do not break any off. Now as you turn the leaf over, you'll actually see how it's got big oil glands on the back of the leaves. And you'll actually can easily imagine that to look like an orange, lemon, mandarin skin. And then if you have a look at the seed capsules, where some of them have still got last year's seed capsules, they look exactly the same as an orange seed, lemon seed, mandarin seed. Also, the flowers look like citrus too. All medicinal, makes a beautiful sweet water. The next one here is leatherwood.
Leatherwood.
Now the leatherwood's sort of a grey plant. You would know this all around Tasmania, all around this area for the leatherwood honey. And it has been proven to actually be right up there with manuka. Once again, all medicinal in antiseptic one way or another. And you'll actually see how the leaves, when they produce 2 new leaves all the time, they've got a little sticky yellowy green nodule on the end to protect any flowers or leaves. And also those little nodules, although the leaves are coming out, it's a little bit harder to see them. That's also pure antiseptic for any of your cuts, abrasions, splinters, so forth. Also, the piners used to use the little nodules off the end of the leatherwood, put them on a little bit of huon pine stick, keep them in a tin dry. You've got your own matches to light your fires. So a lot of people say, how'd you light fires out here? Well, huon pine's pretty flammable and it's got a lot of oil. But when we used to ask the piners, well, how on earth did you strike the matches? They say that their hands were so rough and callous that they'd just strike it off the palm of their hands. So we don't let the truth get in the way of a good story around here. Now, just quickly, that laurel there, you'll see it's in flower. This is one of the bigger leaves throughout the rainforest. No relationship whatsoever to the camphor laurel that you might be more familiar with.
Yes.
But this is where the biggest leafed one in here. This one, the coffee berry, and what else is in here? The native plum. And when you get to higher altitude, these are wane out along with the huon pine, and then you get the waratahs and kingbillies taken over. And one more plant before we get to the huon pine, and that's this one here. This is a little sapling, and you can just see the branches poking out here with the gorgeous teardrop serrations around that dark green leaf. This is our sassafras tree. Now, a lot of myths and legends have been written about this tree. But there is 4 sassafras known worldwide. This one is endemic to this side of Tasmania. It is not hallucinogenic. It is carcinogenic though. But if you're from the 60s and 70s like me, it works well because the bottom's an upper and the top's a downer. But it's a really good all-rounder, if you know what I mean. Something for the morning and night. Now, because of the sassafras grows with a gorgeous point on top, it gets prone to wind damage, where the wind will knock the top out, or lightning, another tree. And once that water starts to seep into the timber, that starts that process of blackheart sassafras that you see in the woodworking. And the huon pine. So if you have a look back over this way, you can actually see half of the huon pine here. It's got a 3-metre girth. It has lived a natural life, which gives you an idea how old it is. And as I said, 3-metre girth, and the older I'm getting, the quicker I'm catching up to it. Now you can see here at the buttress of the tree, no giggling. Now this used to be upright, like a big Y. This side came down around 97, this side came down around 2000. Now the question is, it's aged at about 2,500 to 2,700 years old, lived a natural life. Why do the piners and the convicts want this particular huon pine? It's big enough, it's old enough, and it's
The
right near
most
water.
valuable timber in the colony. The most
Some of the biggest
valuable
ones are
timber
still up there, and they tried to get them out.
It
That's where they would have got the draft horses in or something. It's got burls all over
Captain
it.
James Cook.
So you can see these gorgeous burls. We want them as fruit bowls today. And this is where we get the bird's eye huon
That's
pine.
the
But that seems
pine,
to
yellow
culturally good
pine.
back then. no good for boat building, so they were left. So the piners and the convicts were selected
How old am
loggers.
I? How
Now,
old
if you'd
am
like to see
I?
what they were really after, that one there. You've just walked through a grove of huon pines. So
Fine.
this one here, this one's a good 1,000
Sweet
years old maybe.
Tasmanian.
Grow perfectly straight, exactly what they were after. They would have cut it off at the top, and it's all that top shrapnel that stays in the bush. When Mother Nature sends it downstream naturally, that's when Parks and Forestry can get a permit, pick it all up and divvy it up to the mills. While it's here, no go. So then they would have cut it off at the bottom, or it's a bit hard to manoeuvre. They would have winched it to the water from here, or if they were in more isolated areas, done those shoe roads for the draft horses to drag the logs out that way. Now, the huon pine is the second oldest living tree on the planet. The only one that lives a bit longer than that is actually the bristlecone pine in America. And there's a reason why these guys are so stubborn, I think, so long-lived, is because they're so stubborn. So you've seen the seed, wind and water, up to 3 years to grow. They'll do layering, so especially with the males. So there's a distinct difference between the males and the females in the foliage of growth and the cones. So one of them's very weepy and droopy, just hangs about all day, and the other one is very compact, but not complicated and dense. And it's usually when the weepy, droopy ones touch the ground, they naturally send out those roots. Also, if a branch breaks off, gets sent downstream, gets whacked into a next bank, and it's the right conditions, they will grow. But the most famous thing the huon pines do is clone off themselves. So when they get when they get damaged, they don't stress out as such. They just keep growing and they start heading back to the water. And basically that's called cloning. So the huon pines will start sending up identical clones of itself to make sure it starts growing again. And this is actually shown through here. So what you think is about 12